Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's benchmark day. We're driving from Denver to Rock Springs in Wyoming. Brand new DLC that just came out for American Truck Simulator to measure performance figures with the RTX 2070. So hop on board, hope you have fun. Settings wise, we're running ultra settings, 1080p, no Vsync. As you can see, high, ultra, with the mirrors being the sole exception for reasons. I have a video about that with my Quad HD settings for Euro Truck Sim, where I do disclose why I made this compromise, but it's minimal, it doesn't change the visuals that much, and it's very important, a very valid compromise. As you can notice, my temperatures are quite high today. It's because it's summer, very hot, there's nothing I can do, unfortunately. Anyway, you guys probably noticed that the audio is only coming from one side. It's because Shuttle doesn't like my microphone. It has issues with Xlr microphones in general because of the audio interface. But, you know, a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. I gotta record benchmark with minimal performance loss, and OBS doesn't offer that anymore. So it is what it is. And as unfortunate as it might be, it is the current situation. So it's gonna be a fun drive. I hope you guys don't mind the audio, and let's see what we have in store for us today in terms of performance. Hopefully a decent figure, but we're gonna see that soon enough. So far, they're satisfied with the figures. 90 FPS, 85, that's pretty decent. And it's Denver, so like even more so, considering that, you know, it's a pretty demanding city. There's a lot going on. So I think that counts as a plus. But we're gonna see once we hop into the highway. Or so when we hop further to the city, and that's where things are gonna get tough for the computer itself. We're gonna see what happens. Oh yes, let's go. So bear in mind that I haven't been playing American Trucks since a solid while, since my last video I think. Been busy flying around and prepared, so my driving might be suboptimal, but you know, it's not even the point. The point is performance, that's what we're looking for, and driving is just a consequence. My bad driving is just a consequence of that. An unwanted consequence when you came here to check how the RTX 2070 does. So, ow! Hey, it was like, the light's not blinking, so I'm just gonna, because I assumed it was getting close because of all the noise, but apparently not. That was weird. So far so good, 78, 77. Okay, we're hitting a no low here. We went from 80 to 77 now. Oh, differentials, yeah, I had that locked because I got stuck while driving. It's a long story. I was trying to get out of that spot, and I kind of got myself in a bit of pickle, but I managed somehow. And obviously, so, oh, never mind, there's the red light right there. We go. Because I was looking at the other red light, it was like, obviously I'm stuck here. No, I don't need to be stuck here because the light's there, but that wasn't out of light, which you didn't notice. Obviously very distracted. Today was a weird day. I overslept a lot. Then I knew I had to, you know, wake up to record the benchmarks and stuff, but I was so tired I just could not bear it. I just got up, like, bought the game, the DLC, I mean, and went back to bed. And then I'm finally at a somewhat acceptable state in terms of wokeness. Like, my brain is partially functioning. I wouldn't say that it's not ideal. Brain performance is not peak performance, but it's good enough. So it's like, okay, time to record a video. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Sorry once again about audio problems, which unfortunately nothing I can do in that regard. I've been looking everywhere. There's no fix. It's an issue between Shadowplay, Windows, and my interface. The only fix would be buying a microphone that does not rely on an audio interface, more so that doesn't need a USB connection to the computer. Because somehow it just doesn't want to stereo or mono. It just doesn't want to work the way it should, because naturally you would, you know, pick up the audio in mono and then automatically make it come on the buff channels like a simulated stereo. But even it doesn't matter, mono or stereo, it's just gonna come out on one side, because Shadowplay hates me. And it's a shame because it's such a nice tool. I mean, it does record with minimal performance loss. What you see is what you get. Depending on res, obviously, like 1080p is mostly what you see is what you get, but when you go higher, like Quad HD, 4K, you're looking at a higher performance hit. But generally, it's very on the pair with what you would be getting naturally without recording. So that's pretty nice. And it's rather unfortunate that I cannot record with proper audio, because that would be so handy for me. I can make so many videos. So many benchmark videos by just, you know, voicing over, because I wanna do things differently, because most people that do benchmarks, they don't talk much, they just kind of record whatever's going on, you know. I like to do it different. I like to talk over while benchmarking, and then, you know, my tool of choice, much to my disgust, say it doesn't capture my voice the way it should, but I mean, if you're like watching from a cell phone, it doesn't really matter, even if you're using that kind of, like, I don't know, your average monitor audio, you know, it doesn't matter much. You cannot tell, but for headphone users, it's just obvious that it's coming from only one side. It's kind of creepy at times, but it is what it is. So far we're getting very nice performance, no dips below 60. I'm very happy so far with what I've seen compared to like the early 1.40 days. It had just came out. It was a little all over the place. Mainly in cities, you would have like massive performance drops, and now it seems awfully consistent, which, wow, that's fantastic. I mean, it couldn't be any better than this, honestly. Like, this is Colorado, which is very demanding, and somehow it's just working decent. The kind of performance that is just satisfying. And look at that, 100 FPS, 94, 95, dip down to like 75-ish, never. But that's a far cry from what I had, let's say, back when 140 came out initially. I had like sub 60 frames a second, which is unplayable. I mean, it's not really unplayable, but you can notice it, which you don't notice as much when it dips from like 70 to 60. You can hardly tell there was a drop, mainly if your monitor is 60 hertz, obviously. Because if it's like 75 hertz, it becomes rather clear there's something off. But 60 hertz wise, now you hardly notice it. But you do notice when it dips below 60, obviously, so that was weird. And I mean, 1080p, because I would understand being like 4K, Quad HD, but it's 1080p for God's sake, and it was dipping below 60, which was weird. And even without recording, sometimes it would kind of dip. So I was like, bro, what the hell? It's not supposed to happen. What's going on here? That's not what I signed up for. But over time, they kind of fixed it. Performance is much better. The game looks much better now. It's a much better thing than it ever was. It only improved, which obviously it's the natural outcome. Usually, when it comes to games, they tend to get better over time, and that's the case with American Truck Sim, obviously. It's 100 FPS. Look at that. I mean, it's ultra settings, so it's still quite impressive that 27 is being able to go that far. God, 100 FPS, that's amazing. It's amazing. So it means that if you lower a couple settings and make it feel compromises, maybe you could even dream of 1080, 144 people say is like the dream, the ultimate dream for American Truck Sim when it comes to performance overall. So that's pretty good news. Pretty good news, and visually, I mean, it's easy to tell. It's decent. It's rather decent. No clouds, no skybox, no trees, no vegetation overall. It just looks great. I have no words. Fantastic. I'm very happy with what I've seen, and how the load is shifted between CPU and GPU now in a very decent manner. See CPU sitting at 11% with temperatures. GPU obviously taking most of the load as per, you know, you would expect that to happen. The GPU doing most of the work. Obviously, that's what you want. Not other way around. CPU kind of carrying all the load, and the GPU just vibing like it is with most like old flight simulators. Let's say Flight Sim X, for instance. That's a very common occurrence. But oh my god, I think this is the new area already, isn't it? Oh man, this is great. That's what I like about SCSU. I bought the DLC without even looking at anything. I didn't read any reviews. I just bought it because I knew it would be great. You know what you're signing up for. There's no surprise. There's no hidden elements. You know what you're getting. You're buying quality. You're getting quality. You know, you pay for the quality. You get the quality you expect. And here it is. I mean, look at that. It's fantastic. Can I complain? Definitely not. Wowzers. It's gonna be fun. Might even get back into trucking because as I mentioned before, I've been flight simming a lot recently, a lot more than driving. To the point, it's from May to August. I think I'm on my steering wheel just once, and I had an unfortunate situation. I was doing the Idaho potato thing, the event. And then my GPU crashed. I was weirded out. It was not related to American Truck. Actually, it was a Spotify issue. Somehow it crashes the display window manager. But initially I was thinking, could it have been American Truck Sim that crashed my car? Like, that doesn't make sense because I've been playing this game for so long and never did anything, and now it's suddenly crashing my car like that. That's a little odd. I didn't expect that. But fortunately, it was just Spotify being weird, and it happened with other games as well, which never crashed before. And I was like, what's the common element between everything that's causing that? Because it wasn't happening before, now it's happening. Why? Is there anything that happens to be a common element between all of that? And there is. The operating system, obviously the graphics card, which is the same among all the games and stuff. It's the same machine, obviously, and Spotify, because I do like to game while listening to music. So I was like, okay, let's try it without this one first, which my first guess was Spotify, obviously, because it's something that I don't always have open, and all the times I had it open, somehow it would end up with my GPU crashing. So I was like, okay, time to start ruling things out which are not a cause and culprit, and start like trying things out until we figure out what's going on. And then I tried to play American Truck again without Spotify. It didn't crash, so I was like, oh, there you go, we found it, we found the problem. That was it. That was very weird, because I mean, you would think Spotify is harmless, right? But no, it does. Somehow it does crash the window manager, the display window manager. But it is what it is, I guess. The good thing though is that I fixed it, so I'm a lot calmer now. It's confusing because like I do have a couple games that I cannot play. It crashes my card and it's not Spotify. It's just the game itself, and my card just hates and refuses to run no matter what. Like Dirt Rally, for instance, Dirt Rally 2. I had to refund it because my card would keep crashing over and over and over and over, and I tried everything. I tried all sorts of fixes. Nothing would work. And it's a game that doesn't even put straight on the machine. It's like 50% load, give or take, playing along 60 FPS. It wasn't even, putting any sort of load. And it would crash no matter what. I emailed Codemasters. They tried to give me a couple instructions and things to try out, and kept crashing. Just like, you know, I'm just gonna refund it. I mean, it's unplayable. There's no way to fix it. It's just gonna end up damaging my card, because when my card crashes, obviously the screen goes black and it forces me to kind of turn the computer off. Because I got no output, I don't have like integrated graphics card or anything. So it goes black and I have to kind of force reboot. And that's, you know, over time, when you do that way too often, it can damage the machine. So it's like, I don't want to risk my computer anymore. And I asked for a refund. And that was the only title that I couldn't play at all without issues. Everything else just kind of works. And then, I mean, when it happened, to American Truck, I was like, oh my god, no, come on, not American Truck. It's my game where I just like to vibe. And if American Truck was crashing, it would mean Euro Truck would crash as well, because it's the same engine, essentially the same game when it comes to all the inner workings, etc., etc. So it meant that eventually Euro Truck would crash as well. So I got very scared. Turns out it was just Spotify, and it was sweet relief, honestly. I mean, I don't need to use Spotify. I could use a web player, I could use a radio as well. It's not a problem, you know. It's I mean, it is not a very good thing that I cannot use Spotify in the game anymore, but it's whatever. It could be worse. It could be a lot worse than that. So I just take it, you know. As this scene with we're deeper into Wyoming now, is still getting proper frame rate, very impressive. I like how it's got the speed limit thing. It's, it seems like the overall ambientation, I don't know if that's a word in English actually, not a native speaker, I assume it is. It looks convincing, like it's better than even Colorado. Like it makes you feel like you're actually in Wyoming, if you get what I mean. It's got more clutter, it's got more elements, more things that are characteristic to the state. I like it. I like it very much. And even more so when you look at the performance counter and you see 100 frames. That's very very satisfying, I'm gonna say. Good work, SCS. Actually, outstanding work as usual. It's like I was saying before, you know you're buying quality with SCS. Whenever you buy anything from them, you know it's going to be good. You know you're not going to be disappointed, because it's great. You know what you expect. You're always upping their game. It's impressive. There's no DLC that's actually a step backwards from the other. It's always a step further, which is a good and a bad thing, because then you don't want to drive no DLCs anymore, because the new one looks so much better and so much closer to real life that you just, I don't want to go there anymore. It looks kind of old. I like the new one because the new one is fancier. So, so it's a little bit of a, one could say, a double-edged sword because of that. But you can really see that they went above and beyond with the quality here, and it's amazing, all things considered, because you're still undergoing, that thing that YouTube doesn't like you should say, because it demonetizes you, but you know what I mean? Starts with C, ends with 19, so even though they had all of that going on, they still managed to deliver a very nice DLC. It took longer than people would expect, not a problem anyway. I mean, I'm very patient. And the final result, at first glance, I mean, it's my first time into the state, obviously. It's literally, I wanted to record this as soon as I got the DLC, because I wanted to deliver, I wanted to actually get my first-hand opinion. No bias, no pre-made conceptions, nothing, just what I'm, just describing what I'm seeing so far. So far, I'm very satisfied. You can tell how can I even say that? How it sucks not being able to stay my speaker, isn't it? Tired as well. Oh god, I give up. Anyway, the further you get into the state, you can tell how the vegetation's changing, and you know, it's probably got a different climate and stuff. And that's incredible. I mean, you can tell they've done their research, and it's a very gradual. It's not like, you know, abrupt in any way. It happens naturally. As you drive inwards, it kind of changes gradually. It's not sudden. It's not like green and suddenly, oops, it's starting to get desertic, starting to, you know, it doesn't happen like that. It's a very gradual, very nice, smooth transition, which I think SCS nailed at this point. They really know how to make these climate transitions, which are brilliant. It really gives you that sense that you're actually driving in real life, that you're actually going a long, long way. It's just very nice, very rewarding. See, once we got into the state, we had all the rocks, like the reddish rocks-ish. Now we're kind of sort of dry climate, very dry, very, very dry. Supposedly it doesn't rain enough. And even the cities, like the layout changed a little bit. And the overall, like, geography of the region is also different, obviously. So they capture the essence of every location you're driving in, and that's something that SCS knows very well how to do at this point. I mean, they've been at this thing for how long now? They've mastered the art. And not only have they mastered the art of making these seamless transitions between environments, but they also made it so it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel too cramped, even though it's a small scale. And usually small scale games have this issue where you just feel so cramped because you cannot make the transitions in a way that it doesn't look like it's it doesn't blend in naturally with the environment. Some games, like the Crew, for instance, it has this weird way to just blend different climate and stuff that doesn't look natural in any sort of way. And in American Truck, it's different. You know, it's very gradual, it's very smooth. You don't suddenly hop in and oh shit, it's all dry now. No, it's all green now. You can clearly see there's that in between. So there's the transition right there. So they know how to deal with the clutter, they know how to deal with the scale that they've got to work with, which is very challenging. It's a big challenge if you think about it, because you gotta like take a big state, a very big state with lots of different climates, lots of different cities and cultures, and every sort of thing, and you gotta compile that into something much smaller and make that feel natural, make that feel easy to just, you know, perceive as something realistic, as a real environment. Because it can be an immersion breaker if you think about it. If you fail to do that whole compression into a smaller scale with all the smooth transitions, if you get rid of that, if you don't have the transitioning, you just kind of, you know, it gets complicated. And they've got a pretty good at this, the whole shrinking job. Because it's essentially that. You take a state, you shrink it, and you make the best out of it. Like, you take the best parts, what you can take from real landmarks, from real terrain features, and then you shrink that into something that can fit within the planned scale. That's quite a challenge. So hats off to SCS for doing this in a way that feels so natural. Look at that, 90 FPS, 89. We're still having a very solid performance, no problem so far. We still got 84 km to go. So far, so good. I'm very impressed, very happy with what is so far. SCS nailing it as usual. I'm gonna be driving all night today. It's like I'm gonna drive a bit, maybe hop back into my flight simulator. So, but you know what? I'm just gonna be driving, enjoying Wyoming, because this is absolutely great. I didn't really expect it to be that good, because it's a state that, as people say, can be quite boring. You know, it's mainly farmland and dry and mountains. There's not a lot going on. It's not like Jersey or Texas, Florida. It's just, you know, but somehow they managed to make it interesting. They managed to capture points, make it relevant. You know, it was a fantastic job there. And I hope you guys didn't get bored of all this talking, because I like to talk while recording stuff, and you know, there's only so much you can talk within the trip. So much points you can touch, so it carries on painfully for sometimes. I'm sorry if I did get boring at some point, but you know, you're here for the frames. I assume the frames are nice. Look at how we got into a different environment already. We went from all the dry to kind of dry, but not very dry. It's like middle ground, and it looks amazing. Oh, we should switch lanes. Let's see. Let's do that, because the city is already coming. That looks like Red Dead Redemption, doesn't it? It's more like the RDR1 islands. Okay, we're having a little bit of issue now with the frame 66, 67. Still not bad. Didn't dip below 60, so that's a win. But yeah, it's definitely struggling a lot more, and you can tell. Wow, what a nice little city. Look at that. I love how they just kind of, you know, they captured the essence of every little city, every little townish that they managed to. They encapsulate it very well. Hats off, hats off. Very nice. With all the different gas stations and overall establishments. They do it very well. Very impressively done. Oh, okay, 82. Look at that, performances all the way back to normal, and it's rather densely populated. Oopsie daisy, I was distracted looking at a bar. A waitress in a cocktail bar. Yeah, I was way too distracted. But look at that. Look at this environment. That's just fantastic. Their cities went from, like, if you remember, like, old Euro Truck Sim, all the cities would look the same. Now they're very unique. Like, you don't have, like, repeating buildings anymore. They all look like they should in real life. They're all very distinct, which was not the case before. And that's something the American truck brought to the table since day one. It was like striking compared to Euro Truck back then in 2016, early 2016 when it came out. San Francisco, LA, it was just so much better than what people were used to. It was striking. And people would even say, hey, the game looks better than Euro Truck Sim. I know it's the same engine, so supposedly, you know, it's not much on that aspect of looking better, but how you build the maps in a sense, because it's the same engine, so there's no point in saying, oh, this is more visually appealing or less visually appealing, because they are all the same. So the whole point, the whole magic resides at the map creation, and American Truck always had that edge on that regard. Euro Truck's catching up with the recent DLCs. They look amazing, but you know, back in the day, you could say American Truck had the leading edge on that aspect by a country mile, and it still does if you compare like this DLC, for instance, or even Colorado with Iberia. You can tell how much better it is in terms of overall detail, and how the cities are more characteristic, more cluttered with stuff. that make it seem like a living environment. Although I do understand that it's a different challenge, like doing a whole country, because in the case of Iberia, they actually do Spain, Portugal, and here it's just a state, so it's a lot easier to narrow down all the stuff that matters, capture the essence, because it's smaller in a sense, and it's more, you know, well, the country itself, you have to kind of run away from all the stigma and stuff that, you know, comes together with the fact that it's an entire country and not just a state, not just a small environment. But yeah, here we are. Made a voice. Safe and sound. Lower FPS registered 65 from what I've seen. I don't have, I'm not tracking lows, but from what my eyes could spot, I would say 65, which honestly is pretty good. Pretty good. Let's park it in here carefully. Try not to. Oop, boy. I forgot to park. Come on, England. Let's see. Oh, there you have it. Okie dokie, that's the delivery done. That's the trip. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry for all the talking, but I don't like the awkward silence. So, if you have any feedbacks, much appreciated. Comment sections right down below if you have any opinions. And if you want to ask for a specific video or, you know, anything, just feel free. Don't be shy. See you guys in the next one, hopefully. Y'all take care and stay safe.